Hey, welcome to the 52 Weeks podcast. We're in the middle of February, and for a lot of people, that can cause a little shame because it's like, wait a second, like all the goals, the hopes, the ambitions I had for 2026, now I'm not doing them. And so I wanted to bring on an expert for you who talks about shame-free productivity. So let me introduce you to the one, the only
Lisa Zawrotny.
Hey, Lisa. You're very specific in talking about shame-free productivity. Why is that? Like, what have you found to make that like your focus?
So it actually started with my own shame. Okay. So I've been through like caregiving and I've been through survival mode. And I am, by my very nature, what we'll call a multi-passionate. Sometimes people call them multi-potentialite was a name that's there. Polymath is the name that was given to Da Vinci. It's people who have so many interests and so many different things that they want to be doing. And just it seemed like I was always on this path where I felt shamed, like because I wasn't doing the things that other people were doing. And I got really curious as I was trying to help myself to help others figure out too, like what's going on here. And then I realized, oh, it's because every productivity method out there, all the systems that people guarantee are just not meant for the way my brain works, the way my life is set up. I've never picked up a planner where I'm like, this is actually going to fit all the things I want to do. And I've also very rarely seen any method or system take into account all of the grief and trauma that I went through and all of the exhaustion and illnesses that I was dealing with. So finally, I realized, okay, all we're really like experiencing out there is shame for not getting the things done. Could we back up and be gentler with ourselves and still be really productive? And the answer is yes. And that's why I'm about it, because I experienced it and I don't want others to. And that's what I see with my clients all the time. They try so much. They come to me and then they're like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, not using a system that's meant for you and not giving yourself enough grace and enough of what you need to be doing the things you want to do.
Okay, I relate so much with you because when I started a podcast a few months later, I started another show. And it's like I
Of
always
course you
have to
did.
have a couple things, right? Like because it keeps it interesting. And so you talked about a system. What type of system works for those of us that aren't just focusing on one thing?
So the first step, and I've said this for years now, is your number one productivity tool is self-awareness. And what I mean by that is understanding how you work best and what you love. So part of that is, oh, I want interest. I want variety. I have passions that I want to pursue, and understanding that that's a really incredible way to be productive, to boost your energy. But it's also about learning more. It's about learning what drains your energy, and it's about getting real with what's a distraction and kind of creates clutter in your life versus what's really driving you forward. Like when you go too wide instead of going deep enough with something. And I'm sure you've had that experience, right? Where you're like, oh, I want to try all these things. And then you're like, that seemed like a good idea at the time. And now I've just let that drop. And so now it's about, okay, I know myself. I know I love to try things. Let me be more intentional. Let me declutter that. It's okay that I'm not doing that. Let me see what I have for time and energy and what's really making me happy and what's working for me. So it's about course correcting. So setting up a system is actually personalizing it to what works for you. It's going to be different for every single person. But I will say this. Setting up a system is about keeping it simple, but also keeping it specific to what you love. I'm a big fan of following your passion, but you do need to check in and make sure that it's not taking you off the path either, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I feel like this completely makes sense. What areas of your life can you sort of take out that decision fatigue? So that's a little
Right.
like sounds like a little bit what you're sharing there.
Yes, I love that you mentioned decision fatigue. Okay, then you're also you're simplifying so that you're automating in a way, and I consider it brain automation. I mean, it's one thing to have our calendars automated. You and I both do this for our podcasts, right? Where the calendar reminds the guest, "Hey, it's time to join, and here's the link, and here's all you need to know." Well, we also kind of automate for our brains as well. Once we get into a routine and that routine creates the consistency and the repetition, it then creates the habit. And I consider that to be partly automation. And then, yeah, I think it's about less decision fatigue, but also creating the space to focus better. So the routine and the ritual, we love those patterns. But one thing I will say, and this is a tip for when you're trying to create this kind of system, but you love so many things, is considering a routine that creates sort of anchor points or bookends, if you will. And then you have some flexibility within. So that's why when I work with clients, we do look at time blocking, but I don't do it in the traditional way. I look at it as flex blocking, where it's like you do have your morning routine and your evening routine. You do set yourself up for what you need to get done. But then within, you have some flexibility to kind of fit in what's going to work based on your interests that day, your attention, your energy, lots of things that tend to fluctuate.
And I love that you're calling it flex blocking because, like, I'm such a summer girl, and right now we don't have snow. It is so nice. And we'll probably get snow soon. But, like, I've been feeling like it's spring, and I'm like, okay, like, tomorrow I'm gonna go up and do a hike after work in the mountains, just really quick. And I was thinking about how in the summer, like when you're talking about the flex blocking, I have so many things that I love to do in the summer that it,
Hmm.
like, makes it when you're talking about filling it up with everything that you love, like, summertime is just, like, so fun to go from this to this to this, whereas, like, winter is, like, blah. Like, I don't have as much stuff that, like, excites me, but I'm always like, "Oh, I would love to go to, like, that local event," or like, there's all these, like, cool local things, and so it's like, yeah, if you don't plan it, it's probably not gonna happen since it's not, like, something I usually think to go do, so planning it for the fun stuff too, I really like.
Yeah, that's especially important because it does boost our energy. And to that point, okay, this ties back into getting to know yourself and kind of having these things intentionally ready. When I work with clients, we do go through, personality tests. It's kind of funny because they're like, wait, don't you want to know about my calendar? And I'm like, but first I want to know about you. So we go through, strengths and personality. And, you do get a sense like, where am I on the scale? I love the big ocean personality test because it's a sliding scale of extroversion. It's actually OCEAN. So it's like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And don't be freaked out by those words. They're psychological terms just based on our tendency to be open and agreeable and our tendency to worry. And of course, the extroversion there. If you need to get out and be with people and you know that about yourself, intentionally planning for that and understanding that it is productive when you do that is so
Mhm.
important because sometimes we push things off that could be considered self-care or energy boosters that are that we think are not productive, and so therefore we try to avoid them in order to quote be productive, and we're working against ourselves.
Ooh, I love that. That, like, that you're learning about everything with someone, that
Hmm.
that all goes into productive
Yeah.
into being productive.
And the idea that we have things that we love to do. One of the worksheets that I have in my initial toolkit, and I actually have it available for free so people could just do this on their own, but it's something that I have my clients do to start. So there's core values in there. That's incredibly important for what do you really care about? What's driving you? What your beliefs and your decisions? Because when you try to take action and do things for the sake of productivity, and it goes against what you believe, the best system in the world won't work. When you go against your personality and your like your character strengths, again, it won't work. And then the other worksheet that I happen to have in there, I call the joy list. And it's sort of a self care and energy management guide. And really, it's the simplest thing, takes 5 minutes. It's so fun. I've had clients tell me they, pour a glass of their favorite beverage and just sit and answer the questions. But it's a reminder of what you really love, what lights you up, what you lose track of time doing, what really is meaningful to you. And along the same lines, I bet on your joy list would be going to take a hike, in those really great days. And having that sort of on the list and in front of you, reminding you, oh, that's on my joy list. I need to make sure that I incorporate it at least once a week, if not, multiple times. It depends. I mean, every week might be different, but it's there as a reminder. It's an intentional choice. And that reminded me of what you said, where you're like, oh, I need to make a point to schedule that. And one of the easiest ways is to have a list going. It's almost like your own personal checklist of things that you want to look to intentionally do.
Well, and I love that you call it a joy list because I was just thinking how often, no one really loves like talking about their hobbies, but sometimes when people ask what I like to do, I'm like, some of the stuff I haven't done for a couple years. Do I really enjoy doing that? I'm not making it a priority. I'm not scheduling it, and so
Yeah.
that's because like one of my favorite things, I played with family friends just on like a rec soccer league. Like we were terrible. We lost every game, but I
Doesn't
loved
matter.
it. It like lit
Yeah.
me up, and I'm like, so when I say that I like soccer, well, I haven't played for a couple years. So like maybe I should look at getting on this league. Like I think that a joy list is cool to take inventory of like are if you aren't doing the things that are bringing you joy, like life probably isn't as much fun right now.
Exactly. And I think that's the whole point of productivity is to not only to support you in having, a more satisfying, joy-filled life. And then sometimes, and I think this is what we forget when we're defining productivity for ourselves and then we're trying to figure out how do we get there, is that joy can push us toward it. It's not only that we want to seek it out by being productive, but that it can help us be productive. And sort of it's both sides. Another point of this is you may not have done this for a while, and you also need to consider what season of life that you're in. Does it make sense for you to do that? But it's a great reminder, like sitting down with a joy list and thinking, oh, yeah, I haven't done that in a while, and I would like to get back to it. What a wonderful discovery. You're also allowed to say, I do love that, but now's not a good time for me. But you know what? I'll keep it on the list. And maybe in another season, maybe in the summer, maybe in the fall when I'm not outside quite as much, I'll want to do that. And, I'll have more time. It's entirely up to you and you can kind of play with it. But I do think it's so important that we look at what we love, we incorporate it, but it's not a matter of listing it out so you do it all. It's a matter of listing it out so you get to choose.
Yeah, and what you said about it helps you be more productive. I worked at an engineering firm, and it was so interesting because the sort of rough rule was like if you had all your work done, you could leave at noon on Friday, and because it was more just for projects, but it was
Yeah.
amazing at how I could have loads of work that like normally would take me 8 hours. You better believe I was gonna get out there by noon. So I worked so hard and fast. And if I needed to come in early or whatnot, and all of us did, like no one stayed after noon. No one wanted to be there. They wanted to like leave early and start their weekend and how it really can help with that productivity.
So that was a reward based kind of ideas. You're motivated to focus and make it happen. And yeah, and you got the work done. This has been one of my biggest pet peeves, especially in the corporate world for years now. And I knew it long ago when I was doing it myself. I was like, there's something to it. And now that I coach it, I'm like, aha, this is it. So we take as much time as we're essentially given. And when we're like lower energy, that's going to make it even worse. And there's something called Parkinson's law where it's like you get given 2 weeks to do a project, you get it done in 2 weeks. You get 1 week, you're going to make it, happen faster. And so that same idea, it's like, well, you can leave when you're done. It's like, oh, suddenly you have just totally shrunk the amount of time that you have to work with. And that actually does, in a way, it reduces the scope, it reduces the possibilities, and the decision fatigue, because now you're like, oh, no, we're not going to be looking for like so many options and have analysis paralysis. We got 3 ideas on the table. All right, which one's the best? Let's go. And you're like making decisions faster, and you're laser focused. And yeah, and it all comes from the idea that you're going to do something fun. I mean, I see the same thing with my kids all the time. It's like, sure, you can go out. Is your room clean? Oh, look at that. It already, you just cleaned it. Like that happened fast. And yeah, and that's just one example of how energy management really drives productivity in the best possible way.
It's interesting though, but like as we're talking about this, I don't think to tell myself, oh, if you do like, I think I'm like, "Oh, we should probably get this done before we go and do this," but then it doesn't always happen. But, like, that
Hmm.
was so much fun on a Friday because it felt like a little kid where you have early release type of a thing, and I'm like, "I
Yes.
need to do more stuff like that of, okay, we hate doing laundry. Well, after we do laundry, guess what? We get to go watch this movie in a movie theater." Like, something like that, um,
Hmm.
that, like, gives that, like, excitement and reward again.
Yeah. And looking at it from the perspective of, well, it's going to make future you happier for 2 big reasons. One, you get to do the fun thing. And 2, you don't have the task hanging over your head after you've done the fun thing.
Yeah, no,
So
this is
that's a
such a
win-win.
this is such a good, like, reminder to me of you call it energy what?
I call it energy management, and I have this theory that it's actually more important than time management. And here's why. So we say managing time, but really time is time. It's a fixed amount, right? And sometimes we have less of it, but the more that we focus on self management, like what's going on. Now, part of it's choosing priorities, right? And managing that aspect. But the other big part of it is managing our own energy. And that comes from so many different things. Choosing what it is that we do, choosing how we do it, and of course, taking care of ourselves so that we show up. For me, it's, snacks and naps are going to change the game for how I show up.
No, I love thinking of that energy management. That's just so wise. So, what other tips can you give us as we're nearing the end of the episode? Like, how else can we pick your brain?
Just going back to the idea of compassion, remember that the reason that we're even talking about this idea of shame free productivity, right? And this compassionate productivity is because it reduces stress, it connects us, it creates psychological safety. And I think we forget that we want that with relationships, and we think of that with other people. We have to think of it with ourselves, that we trust ourselves to do the things, to show up. And that when we do it compassionately, when we take the productivity approach that isn't about hustling and grinding and, denigrating ourselves when we don't get the things done, when instead it's like, "Oh, it's okay. You're human. You had a bad day. Take it easy, take a nap, get a snack, try again tomorrow." It builds that resilience and that growth that means that you will keep trying, you will stay fresh, you will innovate, you will be productive ultimately. And I think that's so huge. So I just wanted to emphasize that being productive means doing the right thing at the right time, the right way for you.
I love that. Like the right way, the right time for you. So, can you share with us a little bit from when you started sort of discovering all this stuff to
Mhm.
and like you were feeling a little shameful of things to now? Like how has your day-to-day changed?
Oh goodness. I prioritize certain things. Like I just did my 300th episode for my podcast, and
Congrats!
I thank you. Thank you. And that is a great example, right, of that the 52 weeks philosophy here, right? One step at a time, one week at a time, and keep when you keep going. So I was interviewed on my own podcast, and one of the questions was, what have I unlearned really well? And for me, it was how much I need rest. how much I've been through. I have chronic pain. I don't necessarily have chronic illness, but that's one of the reasons why people with chronic illness actually come to work with me so much, because that's a great example of where you have really fluctuating energy and you don't know what to do. And so for me, I learned how much better I show up when I give my body what it needs, and to be completely okay with that, how slow things can be sometimes. I want to be faster. I want to do all the things. Sometimes it's because I'm demanding and I'm high achieving. Sometimes it's because I just love so many things. But I've learned to be okay with that. I think there's a mindset about the goals that we have and the the level or the pace at which we achieve them. To me, that has been a game changer. To I guess it's the pace that I go at, and allowing myself that, and trusting that even though it's much slower than I want it to be, if I keep taking those steps, I'm still getting further than if I pushed myself and then I got burnt out and then I had to stop stepping.
Uh, I am so grateful that you shared this because I have, had a week where it's just sort of like I fell out of line with things. And then
Mhm.
today I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to get my stuff done? Like I've already lost a week. I have all these things I need to do. But you just talking about the little things that you can get done and like keeping going because to be honest, we're only in February. We have a whole
Yeah.
whole rest of the year, and like exactly of 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Like if you're consistent with it, that adds up to a lot in a year.
It sure does. Yes, exactly. It adds up to a lot and it's going to be okay. I'll give you one more tip, which is I use this idea, especially when we have like something goes horribly wrong, or we're really frustrated, or we've lost time or lost track or whatever. And it's called the generator principle. And it's just this idea that if you have a generator and you have a power outage, right? Something goes horribly wrong. You don't use the generator to power your entire house or apartment. You use it for just the essentials.
Mm.
So sometimes, and this is good too, if you intentionally have like a schedule where it's like, okay, this is a generator kind of day. I'm just not up for it, or I've lost too much time, or another emergency happened and it took me away from what I'm doing, or I'm sick, or whatever the reason. Have that day that's like a much lower essentials based kind of schedule, and be okay with it. And sometimes, even if it was just a total fluke and you just lost track of time or you were distracted, same thing, and just be like, okay, it was a generator day. What time do I have left? What do I really need to get done? And then I'll start fresh again.
Ooh, I love that. Well, and like what you're talking about with chronic pain, I'm sure that that can feel so discouraging. And like for anything, like if you have chronic pain, if you're pregnant and you're like feeling
Hmm.
like, I can't do stuff, if you're getting older and you can't do stuff, like there's so many phases of our life. Like someone passes away and you're just in that grief. And so to like
Yep.
take that and apply it for every day, it's very powerful.
Yeah, seasonality in terms of scheduling is so important. And seasonality can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be related to nature. And two, I love that you brought up pregnancy, and women deal with cycles and cyclical energy, and some have more fluctuation than others. So it's important, I think, to honor all of that. And the more that we're gentle with that, the more we can keep the consistency going. Run.
So wise. So wise. So to wrap up, I always ask the guest a challenge for me and for
Mhm.
the listeners. And this could be something that you want us to do for a day, for a week. But what is the challenge that you would like us to do?
Ooh, I'm torn between, thinking about what it is that, you have been shaming yourself about, but that's kind of a simple question. I think that the best challenge would be to say, what's the simplest day possible? Thinking about that generator principle. walk away with what's a day that could be a lot easier for me, or maybe maybe the challenge might be more on a case by case basis, like as soon as you hit a problem or a sickness or an emergency that happens, get ready to change that schedule.
I
That
love
minimum
that.
effective day is what I call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, thinking about like just okay, it's like I know we love to pack our schedules and I know we love to get as much done as possible. And many times you may be able to do that, but thinking about a much simpler version and kind of having it at the ready, I think that would be a great challenge. When we get overwhelmed by something, that's where shame-free productivity comes in. We don't give ourselves a hard time. We get curious instead and say, what is this telling me? And it's, yeah, you said it. It's like, okay, I thought things were pretty simple and I have a pretty good system, but let me find an even simpler version.
But yeah, no, that's so good. I've loved chatting with you today, Lisa. And for everyone who's joined in this conversation, first off, go to the show notes so you can listen to Lisa's 300 episodes, which is a big deal. I'll have that link there
Thank
along
you.
with her information. But also just remember like what we've been saying, the small things you are doing today, the effort that you are putting forth, it is going to create the lifestyle that you want in the future, whether that's in 90 days, you know, 9 months, a year from now. The day you're living right now is creating the tomorrow of the future. And I will catch you guys next Monday.